Welcome to TomPadulaTV and to Program 2 of the series Australia Day Celebration Week 2017. I'm not going to say much more. I will leave it up to Calvin to entertain you. Enjoy the segment.
So we've had a history which hasn't involved the conflict and strife of many other countries, and of course that has been a great blessing to us. And you don't have the enmity which comes from communities which have seen fathers murdered or mothers raped, or things which make it very hard for people to live peacefully together. And because we have those advantages, we have an obligation to continue that and to nurture that tradition. So we are a country which has seen people come from many different lands living together in prosperity, in peace and in freedom, and that is the challenge for us as we come to Australia Day, to reflect on that, to reflect on what Australian citizenship means, and to understand that we have an obligation to do everything we can to build and sustain the Australian family. Thank you.
Thanks, Calvin. Don't go yet, because you mentioned something very interesting. You mentioned America. Yes, we've got a new president in America.
We do.
And there is a reflection here on Australia Day, because it seems to me with Brexit and the European Union now moving along those lines, that people, after all this universality with the internet and the travel, etc., they're yearning to go back to their own nation and protect their own cultural boundaries, if you like. Now, Australia has opened its borders. I can't say that, can I? So we've actually tried to protect Australia as a nation. Now, where do we go from here? Do you think that this will be strengthened, or do we open it up and go the opposite way?
There are many different factors at work, Tom, and we could talk about the Donald Trump phenomenon and Brexit and the populist parties in Europe for a very long time. But I think there are a couple of things that need to be acknowledged. One is that politics is becoming increasingly adversarial and nasty. So this is certainly true of the United States, where, in the past, politicians tended to get rewarded for moving towards the centre, moving towards the middle ground and being moderate and reasonable. Now you tend to get rewarded for being extreme and nasty, and I think that is an unfortunate feature of US politics, and it's unfortunate that to some degree you can see it here in Australia as well, and there needs to be, I think, a conscious effort to come together to resolve problems rather than to demonise the other side, whether it's the anti-Trump people demonising Trump or the Trump people demonising their opponents. There's got to be a path towards a more civil form of politics. The other thing I would say is, and you touched on globalisation and free trade, all that internationalisation of economies and free movement of goods and free movement of people. There's been a very strong push in that direction for decades now, but there is also increasingly a very strong reaction against it, and a lot of people in a lot of countries saying, well, globalisation isn't working for us. We think our opportunities are being limited as a result, whether it's blue-collar manufacturing workers losing their jobs to cheaper imports or cheaper labour from overseas, people feeling like their say in running their country is reduced, as obviously a lot of people in Britain felt in being part of Europe, that they weren't able to make their own rules and laws about various things. So there is this great pushback against globalisation and that agenda of free movement of goods and free movement of people. And so if we don't make globalisation work for ordinary people, then that push will get stronger. And it does seem to me that there has to be respect for the nation state, and we're talking about Australia in the lead up to Australia Day, that people in Australia have to be able to, through their elected governments and their elected representatives, run their own lives. And if they feel like they have no control over their own lives, they will react and they will support, you know, whether it's Donald Trump or Farage or Pauline Hanson or whoever, they will support somebody who stands against that.
The extremes seem to me that in a political sense make sense, because it's yes, black or white,
yes,
that middle ground. And that's where multiculturalism comes in, that's where the globalisation idea of opening up to free trade, etc. But I suspect that even the extremes, like in the Trump case, is that he understands the media and the world at work with the media.
Yes.
And the media is very good at picking up the extremes and not very good at explaining things like we do today.
Yes.
So, but I've noticed already that on the first day, Trump he criticised the CIA, and what has he done? He's gone back to the CIA and said, listen mate, there's no problem, I love you all, I said that in order to attract attention literally, but now we're going to get down to work and you're going to be doing the work. So my point is that maybe with all this extremism, we are actually going more towards the centre. Because, you know, when Karl Marx and Genghis Khan sit around a round table, they actually sit next to each other. Mm-hmm. So it's everyone else have to listen to both sides. But on this, I want to thank you for your coming into Australia Day event here at Glenroy Performing Arts Centre. I hope that you'll come. I intend to have many activities like this, and of course, you know, I can talk to you and you're very important to me because I can touch on a lot of political things and I want to do that. So thank you for today. Happy Australia Day. Enjoy all because I know you've been invited everywhere in the city of Moreland and beyond. So enjoy this week.
Thanks for that, Tom. Okay,
Thank you.
Good to talk with you.
Happy Australia Day. I'm sure that you've enjoyed this particular presentation of Calvin Thompson. Stay tuned.